Hi, this is Al Fuentes. Welcome to the Self-Empowerment Experience. Join me and my guests on a journey of their stories of their lives and how they have found empowerment through everyday life. It's inspiring, it's uplifting, it's exciting. People from all walks of life come on the program to share their tools, their resources, their insights, so that you may benefit from them. Thank you for stopping by and tuning in. Welcome to the Self-Empowerment Experience. Lisa Liu is my guest, and it is pronounced Liu.
Yeah.
Thank you for making the flight from LA.
Oh, thank you for inviting me out to your, your dream home.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been very beautiful. It's really nice having you. It's been a while since we've seen each other. We were just kind of figuring that out, like 2016, right?
It's been a long time before you started traveling the world.
It's been quite a while. I'm really excited because there's so much for us to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There's some stories in your journey from a kid through even Juilliard and all the way to where you're at now. And there's a lot of magic along the way, and there's a lot of growth that to share. And really, I just wanted to have a chance to speak with you and connect with you and really feel this experience and share with people your story, because you're now a pretty big player in the music world, and especially in LA, and even starting to compose for Hollywood and some of the things that you're doing. So, but where you're at now is definitely not how you started.
No.
So how does that look for you? And you can start wherever you want. Juilliard, you can start a little bit before that. Where does your journey really start?
Probably in the womb.
Technically, that's true for everyone.
I don't know how far back. Being a Chinese person, I'm pretty sure my journey, my parents and my dad impregnated my mother with like, this child will go to Juilliard if she comes out female.
But that's a real thing, right?
It's a real thing. My mom went to Juilliard, and it was just like my brother either had to be a doctor or a lawyer, and I was going to be this artist. And so growing up, it was just like this struggle. Like, is this really what I want to do, or am I just my parents' identity, like what they wanted? And my mom living vicariously through me, bringing me to Juilliard pre-college. She was different in that respect. Instead of sitting with all the other Asian parents comparing kids, and with the passive aggressive, your kid is just so much more talented than mine. All that bullshit. My mom went and taught lessons and seemed like she was staying out of my way. But not really. I think she was just staying out of the other parents' way.
Right. Now, was she a violinist as well?
She was also a violinist. She played in National Taiwan University, but just being extremely talented, was also an opera singer. She had an amazing solo career. She went to Milan Conservatory, Juilliard. My parents met in Taiwan, so my dad also, his story is incredible. He came over on a cargo ship, like a 30-day cargo ship with $2 in his pocket, and lived in the backseat of a car getting himself through graduate school in another language. He's brilliant, and taking care of my mom. My dad was working, there's stories of him working on a farm, working in restaurants, cleaning dishes, just to get himself through college. And he told me he was reading, just the other day, at least maybe 1 or 2 books a day.
Wow.
Just to learn English and get a doctorate at Claremont colleges, which is a really prestigious school.
Yeah, it's a very tough school, actually.
So my mom...
in all our time, I don't think I've known either of those two stories. Not necessarily... we've talked about your mom before and some of her music background, but not as in depth, or even your dad.
Yeah,
this is amazing.
They go... their history is just astonishing, and the determination of them wanting to move to this country to raise kids and give us a better life. And And just, we were reminded of that daily.
Yeah, right? Like, hey,
Daily.
we moved here. We sacrificed.
Spoiled little entitled brats. You have no idea. I'm like, no, we don't know because
We didn't do it.
No.
That was the thing, too, with my father. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but my father floated over on an inner tube from Cuba when he was 17 by himself.
Oh my God.
And so he's, there's a bunch of other people getting ready to make this journey and embark. And I think Castro had been in power for a couple of years, and he was kind of looking at the landscape. He's like, I'm out. And so he floats over on an inner tube from Cuba with 5 gallons of water and just trusts that he'll make it. And he did see people dying around him. And then he gets to the U.S. and he's in that kind of caged where they just threw all the Cubans because now there's all these political refugees and they don't know what to do with them in Miami, right? They're just doing the best they can. And then he makes his way. But really the moral of the story goes back to what you said is there was nothing that I experienced that was ever going to be as tough as what he ever experienced.
Yeah.
And so the level of intensity that was kind of put on me and the level of strictness and like pressure.
And the expectation.
Yeah.
What our parents have done is truly extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, those are survival stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they were struggling in a different language. We can't even fathom that sort of struggle that they went through to get here.
So what was that pressure like for you? I know verbally they were like, you guys, we've sacrificed everything, but growing up.
I think, looking back, I don't know if I tried to get myself into some situations to try to get out of them, to experience any sort of struggle or anything. The whole artist's starvation struggle. I didn't have that because my parents just worked so hard to provide for me. And they didn't want me to work as a child. They wanted me to just practice.
And perform.
But without that sort of internal struggle and have a story, like I didn't have anything. So I think I went out and just tried to cause trouble and create those stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like looking back on it, I was just like, I can't just grow up and be this perfect little thing because, I have to have my own passage.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that, but I mean, knowing you, and we've been working together for actually a long time, since what, 2014?
Yeah, 13.
13?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in that time, you've seen me cause a lot of my own struggles.
Yeah, but think about this though, and for people out there, like you said specifically, it's almost as if you were a girl, you were definitely going to Juilliard, and this family that you have to follow, whether it's your dad and coming over on a boat and figuring it out and finding success, and you, like that's just a given. Like you're gonna have to create success. You're just gonna have to be successful. And then with that identity of being a violinist,
Right.
whose identity was that? Which is what you said. You're like, I think that my mom was vicariously living through me, and so part of like the pain and struggle that you were creating for yourself was also part of you trying to figure out, well, who am I?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's a pretty intense experience to fight what you believe isn't your story, but the story that's being put on you. You have to go to Juilliard, you have to be successful, this violinist, you have to have this amazing career. At what point, especially, let's talk Juilliard now, because just in general, I think if people hear Juilliard, it's such a prestigious place.
Yeah.
Like getting in there, how was that?
Well, that's the thing, when it's an expectation of you when you're in the womb, and and looking back, it's just, I think it's an Asian culture thing. You hear about Tiger Mom. I just feel like we're part of our parents' plan. Like whatever they've achieved and whatever they want for their own lives. Like I'm just a product of my parents. And if I don't get into Juilliard, if I'm not number one at whatever, I'm just a disappointment. Like I'm constant disappointment. Yeah. And to just sort of live through that lens my entire childhood, not blaming my parents by any means, because they did the best they could.
And they only know what they know.
They know what they know. So it's just something that I think a lot of Asian women really have to work through. Is how do we separate ourselves from the identity of that our parents just put upon us, whatever their hopes and dreams were as immigrants. And I luckily absolutely loved the violin. I loved piano. I love music. And I don't know if it was because they kept playing operas, at me in the womb.
Right.
It was constant. Like, I remember 4:30 a.m. I would wake up in high school, go for a jog, do my homework. My mom would make me watch videos of famous violinists and pianists, and hours before I would go to high school.
Yeah.
And just come home. It was just full immersion.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm brainwashed. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about right now. I don't know.
No, I think you have a very clear talk track, and because the disappointment, like feeling like no matter what, the question is, am I a disappointment?
Yeah.
And there's been part of that for you, like no matter what you've been able to do, there's been this kind of shadow, always questioning,
right.
Am I a disappointment?
And if I'm not doing what my parents wanted, am I being rebellious? And then I'm still reacting to what I think my parents projected onto me.
Right.
So either way, there's still the source of either my identity, my success, or rebellion. And I've worked so hard to, be my own self.
Right.
As you know,
but
I'm still working.
That situation's a no-win situation either way.
It's a no-win.
Like at that time as a kid, you either conform and you do what you're supposed to do, and you figure it out, and you become successful, which is a ton of pressure, or you rebel.
Yeah.
And then you may be experiencing some self-expression, but at the same time, there's still pain and suffering because you're beating yourself up now because you're just, and the parents are then really giving you a hard time.
Right. And am I just a major screw up because I went to Juilliard. I did not get into an orchestra. I didn't try, by the way, but I didn't.
What is that track? What was the plan originally?
I think the idea for anybody is go to Juilliard, become a soloist, which just isn't realistic. Like name one famous classical soloist.
Yeah.
Seriously, like I don't think anybody who doesn't. And I'm in the community, and I really can't probably name even 10 classical soloists who are. I just can't. Who are successful and making an amazing living at it. At the time my mom was at Juilliard, there was the culture.
Yeah.
There was like Horowitz, there was a Heifetz, there was Pavarotti.
And music was different back then, and the appreciation of music was different back then.
We just don't have that now.
Yeah.
So if not being a soloist, I was already a failure, and I had to keep explaining, like there's very few people who are making it, and they're really not making it as much as you think they are behind closed doors. And then if not that, then I had to be in a symphony.
Right.
And that to me, just as a musician, the most miserable thing I could. I have respect for musicians. I'm not. I don't want any.
We're talking about individual identity.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is, for some people, a symphony is exactly where they feel home.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own place. But why it felt miserable for you wasn't because it's not a great opportunity or a great experience. It just wasn't your experience because you're such a free spirit.
Yeah. I think, especially as a violinist, you have to understand, in a symphony, I'm playing the exact same part as, 20, 40 violinists next to me. To me, it's like an assembly line. I don't feel like that I'm creating at all. However, if I were maybe a wind player, I would have a different experience where I get to, play an oboe solo or something in a symphony, and you're featured. Here, I always felt like I wanted to have my own voice.
Yeah. And that doesn't provide that.
It doesn't provide that for me.
And for some people, that system is exactly where they want to be, and that's beautiful, and for others it's not.
Right.
I want to talk about, so let's just keep on this, because you were a disappointment because you didn't make a solo career.
Disappointment, didn't get in the symphony.
And you didn't get into the symphony, because you didn't try, though. That's clear. You didn't even try. Then what? What do you do?
The next thing was my dad, as an educator. So after becoming an immigrant, he's brilliant. He became a political science professor and then a dean of a state university for years, which is, at his time, there weren't too many Asian people in a very high position.
As a figurehead.
Absolutely. So his idea for me was like, okay, you won't do these things. You need to get your doctorate in music. Which to me, again, for my path, seemed completely unnecessary.
Because again, it locks you into some conforming space, especially in university setting, which I used to work for a university, so I know what that's like, versus free spirit space, creation space, being big in a different way.
Yeah. So I ended up, I was at Juilliard for 9 years. I got 3 degrees there. I ended up just so my parents would shut up. Bought into NYU because they had the only, I was like, if I'm going to do a doctorate, they had the only doctorate program that was in music and not performance, which means I could take classes on anthropology and other things that were really interesting. I ghosted NYU. I just kind of stopped showing up one day after tons of debt, which I still have to, that's a whole other thing.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, what am I doing?
At least you stopped the bleeding early with the death thing.
The bleeding, oh my God, yes.
So then what? What did you do then?
I started playing in bands, which just complete opposite. It's like the stuff that you don't, it's like the bad stuff when you're
if you're
Juilliard.
classically trained and you're like literally the cream of the crop and just getting into Juilliard is that. And then you did really well at Juilliard. Right.
I think.
Yeah. You had a lot of fun at Juilliard.
I had a lot of fun. I excelled at the fun. I'd put it that way.
And that was part of the rebellion too, right?
Oh yeah.
But to go from that to whatever band, what was the first band?
Oh God, it was some project that I actually saw like a little ad at Juilliard hallway for an album for the Pope. So this must be 2001. It's called Project for the Pope, and they had like Britney Spears and Aerosmith and a bunch of these pop stars at the time who were recording words of prayer for the Pope. And so I was like, I'm going to go show up to a record studio. Like, what is this? And they wanted me to improvise, which freaked me out because I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean there are no notes?
At this point, you're a robot.
Total robot.
Because Juilliard, you do this, you follow these notes, you follow this sheet.
You don't think for yourself. Like, what is that?
So what happened?
They introduced me to Patron.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my introduction to improvising and tequila.
Wow. And what did that do for you?
Really, it worked. I think. If I listen to it now, I'd probably be horrified. But at the time, it was like, okay, there are notes coming out of my brain out of my fingers that have not been written, and I had to figure out what that connection was. That took me years.
Yeah,
that was just like a seed that was planted.
We actually have done a lot of that.
We have done that. That when I started working with you is when it actually really, like, I was able to tap into that side of the brain and create freely and not feel like there were these rules, all these rules I had to learn in school.
And without alcohol.
Without alcohol. I still love the alcohol, but yeah, it's not necessary. It's just different.
So this is a really, really big deal because when you speak to, and just to paint a picture for people that's a little bit bigger, the Tiger Mom, that's a specific to Chinese culture. Yeah. The pressure just from how your family came over and the culture itself is such a huge, like, 4:30 a.m. doing your homework. Now you're going to watch an hour's worth of, here are these famous people, and you're just going to watch, and you're going to absorb, and you're going to do this. And there's a kind of a militant experience to it. But again, not that you necessarily know, but from an outside person going in. But when I've lived in Asia and spent a lot of time there and watching these beautiful children and how they thrive, but yet it's in that same framework. Yeah. This is literally in a giant country in a beautiful way, driving their children to excel. And where like the American culture is like, let them find themselves, especially now in this day and age, let them experience, let them self-express. There's no room for that in the Chinese culture. It is pressure. This is the exact path, and you will do everything you can, and you will accomplish this path.
And you have to be the best at whatever you do with that population. I mean, it's impossible. Right. Like, how are we supposed to be the best at something?
Yeah, when there's a whole lot of people trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I wasn't born a genius. I'm a normal person. So now what? Like I've already failed at birth.
Right.
I came out a failure.
And whether you're a part of the Chinese culture or not, and whether you're an American citizen or from any other country, there's a lot of people that can relate to the pressure, feeling like they're not enough,
Yeah.
feeling like they have to live on a set of expectations, a framework that they have to, live for just everything and everyone else, whether they're chasing the dream home or whether they're chasing the label, they're chasing, trying to
Right.
be like the Joneses down the street, whatever it is. It's amazing the amount of pressure we all feel.
Yeah.
But yours is just such a crisp, clear, defined way. But most people will feel it on some level,
Yeah.
even through their beautiful, happy home lives where they got to be free. It can be self-inflicted at that point. So when I think of you and I think of how far you've come down this journey, and just that piece alone, what do you feel like you could say to somebody, no matter what age, who's feeling like they're a disappointment, who feels like they're not enough, who feels like they haven't lived up to what they should, whether it's self-inflicted should or whether it's parents or society inflicted, I should be more. What would you say to these people?
I would say that every single person has felt that way at some point and probably still does. I think most people don't feel like we're enough.
Yeah. How have you worked to get out of it?
How do I constantly still work for it is I figure out I had to address that numbing pain or that tightness in my stomach. I just felt ill for years. I've as you know, I literally got sick. I got extremely ill. And I think when that was the most confronting thing, was like, I am actually dying right now. What is the cause of this? Like, why do I just feel, although my life is looking more positive, it's great, I have a relationship and financially doing well, why do I still feel this weight on my shoulders or in this tightness in my stomach?
And that was some deep programming there.
Yeah, but I didn't know what that was. It was just, I was suffering.
And what did you do?
I called you.
Yeah, maybe, sure, yes, you did. But what are some of the functions to get out of that? Like if you could kind of tell somebody who's like, hey, you're sitting in a coffee shop.
Well, I want to go back a little bit. I would say the way I handled the unhappiness is how I feel like most people do is with alcohol, drugs, running in a bad circle, causing trouble, just numbing, distracting myself. And I was stunting my own progress. I just didn't know what I wanted. So I think the first thing was like, oh, what am I lacking? And what do I want? So when I realized, okay, I want a healthy marriage, I want to be healthy, I want a great relationship with my parents, I don't want to live with this anger, resentment towards them. What does that serve? Like I keep carrying my past into the now, and I'm not moving forward, and I'm actually getting sick. So I have to do something now. And we are all a product of all the choices we've made in our past, which is so obvious, but I don't think people think about that. So it's like, if I want to not be where I am now, I don't want to be this person, I'm going to have to change. So who do I want to be? What does that person look like? And my mindset now isn't going to get me there, because my mindset is the reason I'm here right now.
Right.
Unhappy.
And one of the mindset shifts was like, you had this very much, this is who I am because this is my culture and this is just who I am.
I think there was a time where I had to separate and really examine what belief systems I have that are from my culture, my parents, and what are actually mine.
Yeah.
And also what my environment, who are my friends. As you know, when you met me, I had some very unhealthy relationships. I was serial dating, didn't have some great female relationships. And those, in retrospect, were all distractions. Again, I look at those relationships as a sort of addiction, like drinking or drugs. It's the same similar thing where I could just be distracted by negativity and let me get myself into other people's shit so I don't have to worry about my own.
Right.
Or let me hang out with people who are far more fucked up than I am. And I think the first step for me was like as you helped me with, like, let's clear out the negative, let's clear out the obvious.
Yeah.
And that was not easy.
So some human actions that
Yeah.
I'm hearing from you is specifically, I went on a negativity diet with the environment around me. I started to really change the framework
Yeah.
of the energy of the people around me. And again, like you said, that's not easy
It was painful.
because there was this attachment to those relationships that felt like they were meaningful and deep on a level, but as you took a step back, you realized how toxic they were
Yeah.
and how unhealthy they were, and neither one of you and the other people, were benefiting from it.
No.
And so that was like, took a lot of courage to clean up friends out of
Yeah.
your life, and that you may have evolved from, but it's not because they're bad people.
No.
It's just you've evolved into a different environment.
Yes.
And so you just can't take the old environment into the new environment because it just muddies it or it clouds it
Right.
and so but doing this process takes a lot of courage. So for anyone who's kind of listening and going, okay, let me look at my friends, the first step is courage, strength, because you're going to put yourself in a space where you're going to have to cut some people off.
Yeah.
That process for you.
It's an ongoing process, as you know, because as somebody who is obsessed with progress and growth, I mean, we're just going to keep expanding and on a deeper level connecting with people who are like-minded. So as that happens so rapidly, we're still met with people in our lives who've boxed you in, like, no, you're this person. No, you can't do that. What are you doing? What do you mean you're healthy now? Let's go eat a fucking burger. Like, what do you mean you're not drinking? What do you mean? Let's talk shit. What do you mean who are you all of a sudden?
Right.
And they want to just pull you in back to who you were. And I started to realize, it was just like, okay, I can't, as much as I love these people, this isn't serving me or them. Any of this negativity.
Did you have conversations, or did you kind of just disappear into the distance?
I am a ghoster. I don't know if I'm proud of that. It's all different.
Right.
There's the people who I was even currently now who are kind of negative, but I love them. I have these long relationships. It's like, okay, I am going to share that I'm not just going to cut people off I'm close to, but it's more like, hey, this is the kind of dialogue I want to have. I want to connect on a deeper level. I want to stay positive. And are you okay with this? Can you move forward with me? And if not, I love you. It's okay. And I just give them a little less attention.
So let's break that down one more step, because that's a big thing that you said. It's really about, there's certain people that are just so toxic and so heavy. Those are the people that if you tried to have this conversation, it's going to fall on deaf ears, or not even, they're going to look at you like you're speaking a different language, and it's just going to be like,
Right.
And then there might be some negative. For those people, you kind of know, and you can let those go, and they're going to be off doing their own thing anyway.
Right.
But the people you said that are close to you, and for me, it's been people in my life like my mom, or close people like that, where I've had to have conversations. And what you're saying is the same thing. It's like, listen, this is exactly the kind of experience I want to have with you. I want to have these kinds of positive conversations. I want to have this kind of fun energy, this beautiful collaboration. If you're open to this, I would love to continue to keep growing our relationship and moving it forward.
Yeah.
If you're not, it is okay.
Yeah.
But no, this is the framework I have to live in now to honor me. And there's been people who have taken you up on that and have truly evolved.
Yes. People have stepped up, and it's again, I don't meet them with criticism. There's no like I'm better than you. There's none of that. It's just like, this is what I'm doing. This is where I am, and I want to attract people who inspire me, who motivate me, people who really give me like energy, and other people, because we're so busy. So when I have any time that I have to purposely set aside, that's not work. Like, I want to be with my husband, I want to be with my parents, and I be with whomever I feel I can really, we can make this connection. I can support them and they can support me.
Yeah. Support this positivity, support this evolution, support
Absolutely.
this. And there's been some really fantastic people in your life. And
Yeah.
and when you get into these conversations, you don't know which way they're going to go.
I
That's
have
the
no
scary
idea.
part. But to be so beautifully surprised, not only have you used so much courage and strength to step up,
Yeah.
and again, it's not, you said it's not criticism, but just for people to really hear it again,
Yeah.
it's just describing, Lisa, this is exactly what I visualize or see the most magical relationship with you can be like.
Yeah.
You know, and it can be as like, I want to go, when I go to coffee with you, I want to celebrate all the positive people.
Yeah.
When we talk about music, I only want to talk about how amazing the projects are going and how positive.
Yeah.
I want to just elevate our experience and only create magic from it.
Right.
That's in essence what you're doing. That's not criticism. And you're saying that, but I'm telling up people who are listening, they have to understand the courage comes, but then the huge win when people go, okay, I'm in.
Like, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
But it hasn't been that easy. I mean, there are people when I share like I want this new direction, they read into it like, oh, so you're saying I'm this.
Right.
I'm like, no, I haven't said any of that.
But that's the self insecurity. That's the self, like, what's wrong with me? And but that's not yours to own.
No, it's not. And it's another big lesson I've learned very recently is that as much as I absolutely love the people around me, I can no longer be accountable for any of them. I always want to offer support and love, possibly from a distance if necessary, but I can only be accountable for myself. You know, so and with practice, it's become really, really easy. Like the people who are, it's been magical recently, the people who they're going to vibrate on your level, they're going to appear. And the ones who want to stay in their space, they're just going to stay in their space. That's it. And it doesn't mean that they can't never come back into your world.
Right.
Everybody is always welcome. There's always a new relationship to start with somebody from your past.
Right.
You know?
So let's talk about parents, the toughest one of those where I know you've had conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
There's been times you've been pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
at the reaction to some of this new framework, right?
Yes.
And there's times they revert. Mm-hmm. Have you had to have reminder conversations like, hey, remember, this is really all I want to have with you?
There is that, but there's also, I realize that how I approach it is so important. Mm-hmm. My intention has to be clear before I enter into any of these conversations. I can't go in with, the hell is wrong with you? Like, why are you still, we're still human.
You've got that in you.
I still have that. Like, I want to shake people sometimes. I'm like, do you hear what's coming out of your mouth right now? Are you serious? And then it's like, okay. Yeah. That's not going to elicit any good reaction from anybody. Mm-hmm. But when I come from, hey, like, I just think this would be so great for us together if we do this. Like, don't you want this better life? Don't you want this experience? When you frame it as like it's us, not like I'm better than you, look what I have. You know, it has to be we. Let's do this together. Like, we're in it. I found that every time that it's like that, you kind of do get what you want.
Yeah.
And they come on board.
With that being said, that was a huge part of healing the stuff that was going on with you, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically parents. Yeah. Because a lot of it rested there, right? And some of that feeling of a constant disappointment,
right.
Not enough feeling, this feeling of just, I have to constantly push and move. Right. And even some of the frustration and resentment in the past, right? And some of these actions were huge, like actual human actions.
Right.
Talk about how visualization work or meditative work have been a part of your life and how that's shifted some of these releasing of the things that cause the sickness.
Working with you with I still cannot pronounce it. Visualization is the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning. I jump out of bed and I put on your visualization. Yeah. First thing, because when in that clear space, I've just rested. There's nothing in my brain yet. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so important to just imagine what you want to accomplish that day. Like, who do you see yourself being that day? What are the interactions you're going to have? As a musician, what am I going to create? Who am I going to network with? How is my evening going to be with my husband when he comes home from work? Mm-hmm. Like that time is so important to me. It's the most important time of the day for me, is at the end of the day when I'm with him. Mm-hmm. So what do I have to accomplish all day in order to have that wonderful personal time?
Right.
So that to me is like just 30 minutes in the morning, viz, meditation, alone time, mm-hmm. just setting the day. Yeah. And I would say another time in the day, a couple of times throughout the day, I will reset. It could be just like a short 10-minute walk where I just adjust. Mm-hmm. I reflect on, what did I accomplish today? Okay, I just spent 30 minutes looking at like puppies and food on Instagram. Shit, okay, now you know what I mean? And now it's 2 p.m. I still have a whole day left. What do I have to do now? Mm-hmm. So there's that constant reassessment of where I am. Yeah. And the visualization is, the days I have not done that, I see how I'm not productive that day.
Disconnecting yourself.
Yeah.
Disconnecting productivity.
I'm kind of being pulled in other people's directions, like mm-hmm. whatever they want from me. I'm just like this body.
Right. So to paint this picture of these things, because there's not a lot. There's no magical thing. You didn't go some far off place and figure something out. There's been no big aha moment that woke you up. You were in truly a grind through your life. Even the health stuff was more of the final push to really move you to the next level. Yeah. But you were already on your way. Yeah. And you'd already done a ton of work. So even the health stuff wasn't necessarily an aha moment, but it was okay. Yeah. Are you going to really let this stuff go or not? Yeah. You know what to do. What's going to be more important? Holding on to these paradigms or these frameworks, or being healthy? Yeah. And so that was a push for sure, but it wasn't an aha. I don't believe, right? No. So, but you leave, you're playing in bands, you're doing that. How did you get to Hollywood? My life was just, like you said, it was just a routine. I woke up, gig, shitty dating life, sleep, same thing every day. And it was like, I was in my 20s. I'm like, is this it? This is it? My parents were visiting me in New York weekly because my mom, even when I was in pre-college at Juilliard, teaching those students every weekend, she kept those relationships. So they were visiting me, bringing me food every week, but then they retired and moved to California, which is where they always wanted to be. So now I was late 20s, just darkest period of my life, I think. And I was just like, I'm just going to go check out California for a minute, because what do I have here? Right. I was in a relationship, but it wasn't right. It's on the surface, my life looked amazing, but it didn't reflect how I was feeling inside. Mm-hmm. So I just came out here, didn't know anybody. They were like, we can support you. They were happy. But then after about 2 months, they realized supporting an adult is not that cheap. Right. When we're retired on top of that.
And they were retired. Like I had a mortgage. I just have expenses. So within a couple months, they were like, you have to get a job out here. And thinking like, I've got 3 degrees from Juilliard. I couldn't get shit for 2 years. Like I was on Craigslist constantly. Nobody would hire me because they're like, you're overqualified. I'm like, am I really? I can't even get a cleaning job. What? Like I can't. I have no skills other than playing the violin. Wow. That was my identity. And that doesn't do a whole lot. And in the real world, like I couldn't do an Excel spreadsheet. I couldn't pick up calls. I just no skills other than playing the violin. Wow. Useless. It's like my fancy but useless Juilliard degrees. I'm so sorry. I'm not insulting. Maybe I am insulting. You know what? I don't know.
Well, if we just again think of the container. It's more of a reality.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily an insult. It's the fact that you have 3 really high-level degrees. You have all this experience.
Yeah.
You truly have abilities when it comes to being able to play this violin. But yet your real life experience and how you can make it, those things really didn't contribute to any of that.
No, it doesn't teach you, these degrees, as great of an education as I got just playing the violin, it doesn't translate like, how do I pay my rent? How do I make a living?
Did you ever think about, and this is just me off the cuff here, did you ever think about like playing on the street or in the subway or anything like that?
I considered it.
Yeah? Yeah. That would be kind of interesting. I still consider just sitting on a corner with a sign saying, hey, little coaching, come spend time with me.
Yeah.
Just for fun. Like, just because it's the most random.
Venice Beach. No, I've considered it.
Yeah. So then what happened? I know you were doing some teaching, right?
I did a little teaching, driving all over the place. The teaching did not cover my gas.
Wow.
And my parents were paying my rent. I was just LA, and I hadn't driven until I moved to LA, so that was terrifying.
Wow.
Driving here and there, making $20 in a day. I mean, it was horrible. But I've always just been optimistic. I'm always felt like I'm paying my dues, and I knew even that I didn't have any resources except my parents, thankfully. I had to keep going out and meeting people, just constant, because everything is your network,
right? Your
relationships.
So then how did that happen? Like, where did you finally get into like the industry, if you will?
I was just playing a lot of casual gigs, meaning background music at weddings, and through there I would meet other musicians who would just keep referring me, and and that network expands, and eventually I ended up getting into the Hollywood studios, which I was very fortunate. It was since I moved there, I knew that's where all the musicians wanted to be, was in the studios. It's a nice paycheck. It's fancy. You could say you're part of this movie.
Yeah. So just to clarify what that means for people who aren't aware of that scene.
Okay.
A movie gets finished, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole orchestra playing, and then music's got to get laid down onto the whole movie.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's the final piece.
Final piece. And so there's a composer who writes the whole thing, and then you have music in front of you now, and as the movie's playing, you're playing along with the music and adding the score to the actual. So when something dramatic happens, it's like, whoa, people don't really realize how much music is a part of how you experience a movie. But that's it. When you're in Hollywood and you're a violinist, if you can get into the session work, we call it, right?
Yeah.
You've got some good money now.
It was, and then.
Okay. What age though? Just real quick, what age was that?
I moved to LA when I was 30, so probably by 32 I was working. Okay. Like a little bit here and there.
So then what was the ad? But then.
Gosh. So I, again, looking back, it's like, how much of this is because it's somebody else's path? Because this is the path I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to get in the Hollywood studios, and here I am. But now, when I made it, I was very fortunate. Again, I was very blessed to be referred by people and working for contractors in town and other composers. But then sitting in a room full of people, and these are great experiences. Like getting to play on like Star Wars is an exception. But with other movies and TV shows, again, I realized it wasn't any different from sitting in a symphony.
Because you're not the free spirit you get to be.
Not a free spirit, but I'm even less than playing. I don't want to. I'm anonymous.
Right.
I mean, so I'm looking at my colleagues who are just like walking around just really arrogant, but I'm like, you're just the warm body who owns an instrument, and you didn't necessarily even audition to be here. You kind of just like censoring, found other means of getting in here. It became a political game where I'm just watching people social climb to get work. It had nothing to do with your ability.
It was all about kind of the politics, who you know, who you can step on.
Who are you hanging out with? Who do you send presents to? Who are you just like super cozy with? And it was not about the music at all. When we weren't creating anything.
Right. You were just playing what's in front of you. So we meet about this time.
Yes, I hadn't even started the studio stuff yet. I was doing some live TV playing, like American Idol and The Voice.
Really?
Yeah, that's when I met you. I hadn't even started studio work.
That. Huh. So one of the things that I really enjoy about the work we've been able to do, and it's really all your work. I just held the space, which is what I do for anybody. And all the people who actually do something with this work, man, they go off. So just to paint the picture where you're at now, you're a composer.
Yeah.
You've scored movies. You're a contractor, and the contractor actually hires. Yeah. And you've done, what is this, the Disney Music Hall?
Yes.
You've contracted for Zelda.
Yep.
It's Zelda, the old game, and they did this thing where they took all the music from Zelda and they made it real live into this setting, which was amazing. And you contracted the entire orchestra, right? You've done some huge things, even as a soloist. Yeah. And you've played privately for what's her name?
Oh yeah, I did it with Natalie Portman in her home.
Yeah, and then you performed with some bands and done some things like that, right? So where you're at today, and you've also started another business, which is pretty cool. And so now you have, because contracting alone is its own business. Right. Composing as a business. Yes. Session work is a business. Solo work is a business. Right? And then you have this outside business. Yes. That's 5 so far. The growth that you've experienced has been amazing. And true to your nature and the way you've been beautifully programmed is like just a machine almost on some levels. Initially, when we started working together, it was like very machine regimented. Yeah. And still fighting your own humanness. But where you're at today and where you're headed, which is a whole nother level than even where we're at now, because there's some really cool things in the works, some really good opportunities in the works. Yeah. What do you think about now? Because to kind of lead you into this, because I want you to talk about how you live now. Yesterday we were sitting out and we were just talking about the magic, and we were talking about how you interact with people. Talk about that piece that's so far away from the politics and the rat race and the ego and stepping on people and fighting for positions. Kind of tell me your space now.
About a year ago, I quit working for most people. It started with my day-to-day work. I just realized I was in a very toxic environment. And again, it was a realization that, my environment is influencing my health, my well-being. When you're not healthy, you can't dream. You can't think about what you want. So I had to go through another cleansing period of like, what's not serving me right now. Right.
And it wasn't so much about the people, it was more about just the environment being so limiting to where you wanted to go.
It's definitely the people too. It's people are the environment, but yeah. Sure. But yes, I understand.
I was trying to help you out a little bit there.
Thank you.
I appreciate your honesty. So and then what?
I had to go through a little bit of a grieving period. And again, every few years, it was like, okay, where am I right now? I never want to be in this routine. That's when I feel like if we're not growing, we're dying. So I felt like, okay, I'm just doing the same thing every day. It was exciting for a couple years. Then I realized, like, same thing happened in New York. First couple of years out of college, I was working. It was exciting. And then a couple years later, I'm like, okay, I'm doing the exact same thing, seeing the exact same people. Nobody here's growing or changing. It just seems it's just stunted. Yeah. And I had to understand that this was it. If I chose this path, I continued down this path. So I'm a very, as you know, I go full in. When I do anything, I just go full in. I just quit my job immediately. I didn't even think twice about it.
Which is a big leap because that was a major source of your finances.
It was most of my source of finances, but I knew that if I continued here, this is all it was going to be. Whereas I know that I have my ability to step away, have a little grieving period of like, who am I? What have I done? You know, can I go back? And releasing all of that energy, I began to rebuild myself, rewire, reprogram, whatever it is, to think, okay.
Through the visualization work.
Absolutely, through visualization.
Okay.
With, okay, who's new Lisa that I want to create? What's that life that I want in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And I've got to become that person who's going to get me that life. Because she isn't here now.
Right. And part of that was an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Businesswoman, not just a player, but a true businesswoman.
Yeah.
Multifaceted. And that took not only daily programming, because you didn't feel super confident
No.
that you could even be a businesswoman. We talk about Excel spreadsheets. That was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got to figure out
How to turn on my computer?
how to work these things. And then when you start talking about the other opportunities, and we'll talk about those, I mean, you literally had to learn everything real time.
Oh, I feel like I was making up for maybe 20 years of not being an adult.
Right. Because when you're in session work, you're just playing. All the technology is there for you. Yeah. All the mics are set. All the things are done.
You're kind of mindless. You kind of just go in, open your case, play. They literally ring a bell when there's a break. And you can be like, oh, I can use my body for myself. Like, well, I don't know. And then there's a buzzer to come back in. I'm like, what is this? Like, what?
So to share, and you've already given me permission ahead of time to share whatever, and not that we're going to share it deep, but we'll share specific. And specifically, when you and I started talking about, well, who are you other than just this? What out there looks like it makes sense? And we talked about you becoming a colleague to some of the people you really looked up to, and you're like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Like, this person is so big, they do so much. There's no way I'm a colleague. I'm just a grunt.
Yeah.
In your mind. That's really kind of the essence of what you were trying to say. I'm like, oh no. And so we did a visualization that designed you not only to see yourself at that level and in colleague with these beautiful people, but then specifically looking at the different hats that you are now going to create and wear. Contracting,
Right.
composing. And we visualized you looking at all these pieces of like a pie. The whole pie, Lisa Liu's pie, has this, and this. But now we're feeding each piece separately. And that's where you're going, okay, I'm going to visualize this contract. And what can I do today to feed that in action? But energetically, how can I continue to breathe that into my body and believe it and feel like this is possible? And the same thing with composing, and the same thing with more solo work and specific solo work that you wanted to do. And at this point, there was nothing on the radar.
No.
There was no reality in your everyday life that there was any like contracting coming, any of these other things.
No, I was still getting, and I still am getting these work calls, and it's been an exercise of saying no to income that I wasn't receiving. Like, I was choosing to turn down a lot of work and money daily in order to serve my greater self, my newer self. It was like tearing a Band-Aid.
Right.
And I literally draw a pie every week. I draw a pie on a piece of paper, and I put out all those aspects of myself that I need to give attention to throughout the day. And in the beginning, it was so difficult. I was like, who am I? Like, how can I be?
How ridiculous am I to think that this is a possibility?
Who the hell am I? And of course, again, there were the naysayers who are people closest to you. They're like, you can't do all these things. Choose one. You can't do more than one thing. You're gonna fail at all of them. And like, what do you do? And it was, again, I had to keep reflecting on my friendships, and like, that's not serving me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just gonna fail. I don't know. So eliminating the negative, drawing the pie, and I visualize every day what I'm going to accomplish in each piece of the pie.
And what you want to draw in. Like literally when you breathe a breath in, you visualize yourself pulling in more contracting work, pulling in a composing job.
And I'm visualizing the actual people I want to call me. I visualize the people I want to interact with. When I see a call come in, I for this brief second, I'm like, what is my intention behind this call? What do I want the outcome to be of this call? And I look for the good. I look for positive. I don't look for like, shit. It's like, this is going to be awesome. And I pick up. And that's what I'm always searching for.
Yeah.
And the negative, and I think I asked you yesterday, I don't know if the negative is still there or if I just don't see it anymore.
When you have the volume turned up so much on positive intention and just positivity in general, literally that negative energy, which will always exist in our, because it's a part of human consciousness, and we're always going to have human consciousness with us. It's so drowned out and so far away that it really does feel like it's not there anymore.
Well, there's just no space for it. I don't have time.
There isn't when you're pulling this stuff in. There's really no space. Yeah. But I remember you were working, and I'm like, be patient, trust in this process. You got to feel it in your cellularly. You got to trust in your bigger self. And then a door opened, and 2 doors opened pretty close to each other: a soloist opportunity and a contracting job.
Yeah.
And at that point, you still didn't exactly know how to be a businesswoman. But I'm like, okay, you got this. Here's the fundamentals, the people, what you want. Let's stay focused. You're going to have to step up and learn some things, but you've got this. And you just and you were afraid to make phone calls, and you were afraid to work the numbers and talk money and pricing. I mean, there was a lot. And then so we had separate work that goes, okay, I can do this. This is me. I can own myself. I can own my experience. And there's a lot of magic, but it's in simplicity. Like if we were really to break down a lot of the work, I mean, you literally just go, oh, not used to adopting new things. Okay, I got to visualize that I'm okay. I can learn anything. I can do anything. And that was just at a basic level.
Right.
That was a cool shift.
I think again, I think everybody gets overwhelmed with the daily tasks we have to do. Especially as an entrepreneur, it's infinite, the amount of things we have to do. And like, oh my God, it's going to cost this. And all of a sudden things appear you didn't know you had to do or pay for. And so something that you told me that it sticks with me is there's nothing bigger than me. There's nothing bigger than me. And what is it that I want? If you look at like, okay, I want to be married someday. You don't look at the little details of all the arguments you're going to have and all that. You picture that ideal relationship. So again, I was like, what's the ideal career or opportunity that I want? I'm going to think of that. All the details they're there, but what's that big picture that you want? What is it?
Yeah, and what little things can I do on a daily basis just to move that forward a little bit? And it doesn't have to be huge. It's just daily actions. Speaking of relationships, that was a great one. Yeah. That was, for me, one of the biggest joys, because that was something after you had worked through the initial framework of your business and your life and your career, and you were starting to get the contracting stuff now, and you were starting to open up some other possibilities, solo work. You're like, okay, I think I'm ready for a relationship. I'm like, oh yes, remember that?
That was a big one.
And we literally talked through what you felt about it, and some of the things, and what sticking points you had, what realities you had about it, and we got you into a really cool, clear space. You got yourself into a really cool, clear space of intention and clarity. Yeah. And then we did a visualization for that.
Yeah.
And it was less than a month.
It was pretty fast.
And all of a sudden, and this guy that you're now is your husband. I love this dude. He's one of the coolest dudes.
It still makes me laugh that I am even in a relationship, because it's a whole other podcast, but like single forever.
And he's so beautiful. Yeah. And he's so kind. And he's so loving.
I'm tearing up.
I know, it's so beautiful. And opposite of you in a lot of ways. But
completely.
So perfect for you in that way. And I liken you and I's relationship with my partner Nikki, and your partnership with your with your husband. They're very similar. Like we're the very high alpha
Achievers.
like go.
Yeah.
We do anything.
Yeah.
We always have 20 hours of work we could do in a day.
Yeah.
You know, and Nikki and your husband are so happy just being.
It's so annoying, isn't it? It's so fucking annoying.
I'm like I have to work to be that happy.
I work so hard.
I work to be that happy.
Yeah.
Like I actually have to visualize and work, and people think, because I'm really happy and positive now, but it was work because I was a miserable, just idiot. And that's not judgment, that's reality. I was doing a lot of choices that were completely self-suffering. I had to work to get to where, and I have to work to maintain the joy, the happiness, the love, the positivity, the patience, the acceptance of people. I have to work every day at that. And that's always a part of my visualization. Meanwhile, your husband, Nikki, they're just like, everyone's beautiful. Life is amazing. Life is just happy.
I literally roll over, and if I'll like touch him, he just wakes up and smiles, and there's like a joke that comes out. And sometimes I just want to punch him in the face. It's like, he's so happy and endearing. It's like, it's his and Nikki. Like it's just their being. They're so joyful, and it's like, okay, what can we learn from them?
100%. She's been a great teacher for me.
Yeah, I used to be just impatient. I was just like, let's go. Like, why aren't you moving as fast as me? Let's go. We have shit to do. And I always felt like he was, I don't want to say pulling me back, but in a way it was, because I just, we're both like rocket ships. But with him, it was like, he's just so, he lives in the moment.
Presence.
He's just here. There's no urgency ever. There's just like, we're just having coffee. Like what we're just sitting here. Like
what does need to be done?
And I went like, no, let's go do. He's like, no, we're sitting here.
Great gift.
Yeah.
One of the greatest gifts I think you've received from this work is that experience and being taught so much by that framework. Because there is a side of you, and me too, where we have to be really present and really happy in the now and with the beingness that we are. And fortunately, I don't ever feel like driven nuts by those traits in Nikki, because I look at them like, and when I first started, I'm like, whoa, I'm like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be. Like, that's something to work towards.
Yeah.
And so I really look up to that. And as you continue to evolve, you'll look at those, and instead of being this frustration, part of the frustration is like I don't have that. Like that's part of your frustration. And then part of your frustration is like, there's no reason to be this way. And that's your old school, like Lisa, there's got to be a reason to be this or be that. And so but you'll continue to evolve.
But it's a lot of it like we're not going to be happy until we achieve this. No, we need this to be happy. But we have to be happy now.
Yeah. Yeah. So those morning moments, you're like, how dare you? We haven't even done anything.
You? Like, what are you proud of?
So for anyone, and I've actually worked with quite a few people on attracting mates in their lives, and this was a huge one for you. And then that's when the ball started really rolling, because you had then used the visualization work, and you saw the real reality of the contracting opening up, the solo work opening up, your partner opening up, and then let's go bigger. And that was another level for you, which took another level. And then you got a composing job.
Yeah.
And you got one that was like your warm-up.
Yeah.
And then you got a recent one that was a rom-com, really cool, beautiful film, and you scored it.
Yeah.
And the reason why I talk about this, and while the whole process of getting it is really amazing, I want you to really just speak to how you've used your abilities to pull in. And you talked about a word yesterday called limitless. Yeah. And even the tag on the T says you are unlimited, which is brilliant, perfect for today. Talk about instant downloads. Talk about feeling limitless, and how you've been able to use this work to really be limitless.
I think when we realize that we're living in a framework that other people have designed for us, and that's daily, like with job, home, everything. When I quit, I was like, wait, I'm not. There's no box that I belong in. There are no boxes. There are no rules. I can do whatever I want. I'm so fortunate to be in where we are in this day and time I'm in California, amazing life. We can do anything we want, truly. And the only thing that prevents any of us from doing it is our own mind. We are our own obstacle, So I think with that, I had so much resistance towards learning anything new because I'm just a violinist. That's all I do. That's my identity. When it's no, that's just the skill that I have. So when I realized that, and I was confronted with things like I have to learn new technology or
Pro Tools.
all of these things were.
What was the other one? Logic.
Or
These are complicated programs for people who don't know.
Yeah, or not even that. Just now learning about life insurance and adult things, just adulting. And thinking that, okay, every time I learn something, I let go of resistance. It's still there, but let go of it. I take on a task. It's never as bad as you think. And every little challenge, it became an addiction. Every day, I want to be challenged. I want to be uncomfortable. I want to feel a little bit scared because that means I'm learning something. I'm growing. So every new task was okay, bring it. Just give it to me. What is this new thing? Yeah, I'm going to learn this now.
Yeah.
And with that, I started really attracting new experiences, new people into my world that I've never thought I would be able to have a conversation with because I felt too small or dumb. I'm not smart enough to sit here and talk to a patent lawyer or or a doctor or as a friend. I'm just a stupid musician. And that was just an identity I put on myself. And when you realize, we don't have any limitations except for what you choose to tell yourself you're limited by.
Right.
You can do anything you want. And it's freeing. We are all free.
Yeah, 100%.
We're free.
I'm with you because I'm just yes. And so when you adopt these new skills and you pull these in, you said something really cool. It releases resistance in you of something, some way. You continue to realize how big you are in this world.
Right.
And how much you can really do anything.
Yeah.
And that is just profound.
Yeah.
And how that's allowed you to tap into this bigger consciousness is even when you think about composing and writing music, there was a time where we did an exercise where you played the violin.
Yeah.
And you just played a piece of music. I'm all right, now I want you to call the notes in from a different place, breathe the notes in, feel the notes before you play them, feel the texture of the bow, feel yourself, feel every movement. And then I want you to breathe and flow the notes through you. And that moment was a pretty cool moment you had.
Yeah.
And all it is intention. All it is becoming bigger and feeling the notes on a deeper level. And that stepped you into really learning how to compose because you had to feel, well, what does this scene feel like? What does it sound like from this bigger place? And you were actually calling in music from a bigger framework.
I wasn't. I lost that when I started playing studio work. I lost it. I just became the actual physical machine that plays notes and doesn't think or feel or create.
Yeah.
I was an automaton. So a big part of me leaving was recognizing that my actual playing was suffering. I didn't feel creative anymore. I wasn't able to channel anything. I just...
Right.
So to bring that back...
It's a skill. It takes work.
It's a skill, but when you have that creativity, that's what really helped me expand into other areas where it just felt like I need to know what... I want to know how I want to feel, if that makes sense. My goal is... what do I want to feel, not what do I want to do.
Right. Even now, your relationships, you were saying yesterday that you used to have this framework where, okay, if I'm going to talk to this person, how can they move my career forward? How can they help me? What is this? What is that?
That's Hollywood.
Yeah. And now you're like, whether it's a barista, whether it's a person in the parking lot, whether it's somebody that you may be in the industry or not, you're now having interactions just for the sake of creating a positive, magical experience with somebody in a moment.
Because that's what I want. I realize that's when I wake up, I want to have connections with people. I want to have meaningful conversations. it doesn't matter when I'm looking for that connection. I'm not looking at their status, their appearance, like who they are, what they do. That doesn't matter anymore.
Even now, contracting, same concept, right?
Same thing.
You want to bring a group of people together because of their magic, their energy, their connection, their mindfulness, their beingness, not just because they're this status, that status, this position, or this puts a good play as far as politically in your system.
Yeah, that all feels. I want to be around people who I'm having an authentic connection with, people who really want to contribute, and I want to give people the space to be able to play and contribute. You know, and I'm attracting new wonderful people into my life, and that I absolutely love, and I'm also attracting my old friends with their old behaviors who are seeing that this is a great state to be in.
Right. And they're choosing to say, okay, how did you do that? What can I do? And now, so the influencer now that you are, it's truly in Hollywood, truly in this realm of music and in other areas with your other business. This is all amazing, and I'm really excited to see where you take this, because it's getting bigger and bigger, and there's the next level that comes for you, and this is more of a reminder based on yesterday. It's like you have to breathe bigger, you have to feel the constant feed of energy coming towards you, continue to play in the magic space, because everyone you meet authentically, everyone you meet with this magic and this energy, they create little spirals of energy that create more magnification of the greater magic, and then that fuels bigger projects, bigger composing, bigger soloist work, bigger this, bigger that. Everything in your life now is about to go to an even bigger level. And I love that you came here to visit, and that we've gotten to share on a much deeper level, because you can feel what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to watch where that goes. And I'm really happy for you. Real quick, how would people find you? LisaLiuMusic.com?
Yes, that's it.
And then what's your Instagram account?
At Lil Robot. So it's at LILROOBOT.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I thank you so much. I'm so happy to share this time with you. I love you. And yeah, I really appreciate everything.
Thank you. I mean, I don't even know how to thank you enough for everything. It's like, again, a whole other episode of me just thanking you for all the things the past 7 years. But I cannot wait to see what happens in the next 7 years for both of us.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. And thank you for everything.
Thank
for
you for
saying
having
those
me here.
words. Yeah.